series R-Rated Radical, the films of Stephanie Rothman. And she is here with us tonight and tomorrow. You should also join us tomorrow for a wonderful film, Working Girls. And I also only say a few words. It's a series we put together, Verena Mund, Gabi Babic from Kinothek, and me, Andres Balhas from DFF. With 10 films, 5 films from Stephanie Rothman, that's the core program, and we have a few films, 5 other films that we showing after we screened all films of Stephanie Rothman. And the special thing is that from these 10 films, only one had a theatrical release in Germany back then. It was actually Terminal Island, but it was only released in a dubbed print, and it was only shown in German. And we at the Film Museum want to offer the original versions, especially even the filmmakers here, naturally. And so the series was quite hard to put together because no prints that we could screen around in Germany or even in Europe. We had all 10 films. 9 of them we got from the US and 1 even from South Africa. So we had to make some efforts to get all this print together. And many are in beautiful analog 35mm prints, some in digital restorations. And it's also great that we have a variety of different formats and ways film history is still alive. We screened 2 films by Stephanie Rothman, called The Vampire and Student Nurses. We already screened the last days in wonderful prints by the Academy Film Archive that were some 10-15 years ago, where new prints struck. And they were like new pristine prints. We will screen tomorrow Working Girls and the day after tomorrow Group Marriage, with new digital restorations that Stephanie Rothman personally supervised and made it possible in collaboration with Museum of Modern Art. And tonight we have actually a film, Terminal Island, that we, because the restoration was just finished shortly before this date, and it was not sure it will be finished, we got a very rare print from the US, from a collector, but it was actually is a print that was from the UK, Great Britain theatrical release, and that is a great lucky coincidence, because the prints that were made in the US back then are either on Kodak Eastman color or Fuji color, and they're all red, gone to red or brown, faded prints now. And this print is from the UK originally, is in Agfa stock and is still holding up. The colors are beautiful, all this great blue of Agfa, so you're in for really a treasure that we were lucky to found. And it is obviously a print from 50 years ago that has some signs of life. It screens a bit, but it not something serious, but just a few scratches, especially in the beginning and the reel changes. But overall, I think we checked one reel and it looked quite beautiful. So we're happy to we were able to present the film in those beautiful new prints, digital restorations, rare vintage print, and that was all made possible because of the collaboration with Kinothek Asta Nielsen and the funding that we got for the series as Kinothek Asta Nielsen. I'm handing over to Gabi Babic from Kinothek Asta Nielsen, who want to thank the funding partners and will then introduce our special guest tonight. Thank you.
So welcome from my side. I would like to take the occasion to thank Hessen Film and Medien GmbH, who supported this series, R-Rated Radical, the films of Stephanie Rothman. And tonight with us are here David Hart and Dilan Yildirim, I'm sorry. So thank you for your support. And I would also like to thank the Filmpodium Zurich, who was our collaboration partner. And tonight, with our guest of honor, who we will welcome in a second, I have the privilege to be able to compare actually the copies, because the DCP, the digital restoration, has just been 2 days ago screened at the Filmpodium Zurich. And I had the pleasure to have a film talk afterwards with Stephanie and the audience. So please also stay in the cinema after the screening. We will have a film talk moderated by Verena Mund and myself. And and Stephanie will be our guest, and I think we can even take questions not only related to Terminal Island, but you have seen, some of you have seen other films already, and you are invited to stay for a small reception after the film talk. So now it is my pleasure, after we've spent some 2 days in Zurich and also we're having a boat trip on a beautiful lake. It is our great honor and pleasure, and she made all the effort to travel from LA to Europe to Zurich and then to Frankfurt. Please give a warm hand to Stephanie Rothman.
Good evening. I just want to make a few remarks about my film because I think it will be more interesting if I tell you what we thought about when we were thinking about making it. Terminal Island, the film you will see tonight, was my 4th film. In the early 1970s, an old exploitation genre, the women's prison picture, enjoyed a new wave of popularity. I was offered the job of directing one, but I turned it down because I was uncomfortable with the underlying reason audiences came to watch them, namely for the amusement of watching violent sex-starved women in what was called a R-rated R film. In other words, the filmic equivalent of a mud wrestling match. But I had to forsake the luxury of my disdain in 1972 when my senior partners in a small distribution and production company outvoted me. To override my objections, they agreed that if I would make a prison picture whose main characters were women, it could also have male prisoners, and it could be set in the prison universe of my choice. I chose one without the death penalty. In 1972, no one had been executed in America for 10 years because there was widespread concern that the death penalty was unconstitutional. This concern was not confined to judges and lawyers. There was vigorous public debate about it too. A frequent argument in favor of the death penalty was that it was too expensive to feed and house prisoners who were serving life terms. It was this argument that led me and my producer and co-writer, Charles Schwartz, to imagine a cheaper solution, the story of an island prison called Terminal Island, an island from which there was no escape, where convicted murderers were sent after the state of California abolished the death penalty. What we asked ourselves would happen if they were left there with only enough supplies for a primitive level of survival and with no guards to keep order. Would they kill each other off? Would the strong enslave the weak? What would happen to the few women? Would their scarcity give them value, or would they be the least valued of all? Would this group of murderers, who have nothing in common except their crime, be able to form a society? If they were, would it be rigid and hierarchical, or democratic and adaptable? We didn't want this story, however, to be only about a group. We also wanted to bring some individuals to the forefront and to tell why they killed, since not all killers are alike. Some murders are planned, some spontaneous, some accidental, some cruel, some merciful, some vengeful, and some political. Some kill once and some repeatedly. But we asked ourselves, given a chance to begin anew, even in exile on an island they can never leave, are some of them capable of redemption? These questions were the foundation in which we built the narrative of the screenplay, in collaboration with another writer, Jim Barnett. Of course, this is an exploitation film, and you will see how we work this out while meeting audience expectations, which means that there are liberal doses of nudity and violence, although by today's standards, they are quite tame. But 51 years ago, by the standards of the Motion Picture Association of America's Ratings Board, they were at the far edge of what was acceptable for an R rating. However, when it came to violence, on this occasion, the board's standards were double standards, which I think hurts the film, because the board demanded that some of the more graphic moments of violence be cut. In Terminal Island, there is a scene where a man's throat is slit. It was originally shot in a gory close-up, but the ratings board insisted it could only be shown in a distant long shot to get an R rating. We did what they wanted, and it reduced the pain and shock of the image and the energy and rhythm of the cutting. Yet, a short time later, when the very expensive film Papillon, starring Steve McQueen and Dustin Hoffman, was released, there was a shot of a man's throat being cut in, what else? A gory close-up. Finally, I would like to talk about the women in the film, because it is through their perspective the story is told. With one damaged exception, they are tough, resourceful, and central to the conflict and transformation that takes place on the island. But the way they look, and in particular the way they are costumed in some scenes, sharply illustrates the uneasy tension between the film's ambitions and the compromises that had to be made for the exploitation marketplace. And so you will note that despite hard labor, bad nutrition, poor shelter, and constant violence, the women of Terminal Island, in full makeup and cut-off jeans, always look absolutely fabulous.
Just forgot about one thing. As I mentioned, the film originally came from the UK, and the UK title was not Terminal Island, but Knuckleman, a very strange title, not approved by Stephanie Rothman. So don't be irritated when shortly this title, Knuckleman, comes up in an insert, 5 seconds, completely faded to red, and then we come back to grey colors. For this to know beforehand.